Hi guys. Good morning everyone.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
A very good morning. So today it's going to be something interesting. So every day we are learning so many interesting topics. Today is going to be more interesting, especially to girls. I'll tell you why it is much more special and interesting to girls. Of course, for boys too. So now let me present the screen and show you this. And you have to guess why this topic which I told you is going to be too interesting for girls. So here it is.
You must have seen your mother and grandmother wearing silk saris. Have you ever wondered how silk is obtained? Silk is a form of animal fiber which woven by silkworms. Let us now study the stages in the life cycle of a silk moth. Drag each picture and place them in the blank spaces provided. Remember, you have to place them in the proper sequence. Click Submit when you are done.
So I hope now why you understood I told that the topic is going to be very much interesting to girls. Did you get why did you say that? Why? Because
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, why? Because today we are going to learn about silkworms, the manufacturing process of silk. Okay. So now here life cycle of silkworms. Usually silkworm has four stages of life cycle. One is the very first is the egg, and next is the larva, third is the pupa, and fourth is the adult silk moth. This is the life cycle of a silkworm. Now, coming to here, can you guess which matches to the first circle? First, the female moth lays egg on the mulberry leaves. Next, after laying eggs, the eggs hatch 10 to 12 days after once it is hatched. And then the eggs hatches and becomes into larva, and this larva feeds on the mulberry leaves. Now can you see first here an adult moth that lays eggs. Once after the eggs has been laid, that eggs hatches into a larva. Can you see here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. And now this larva continuously feeds on this mulberry leaves. It keeps on eating and growing. This larva feeds on mulberry leaves. And after that, what happens, this larva starts spinning the silk. The larva starts spinning the silk. So this is nothing but from the saliva, from the salivary glands of this larva, there comes a very fine thread-like fiber-like structure. This fine threads is the silk. The larva starts spinning the silk. Now, after that, what happens? This larva actually turns into a pupa inside the cocoon. Now, what is the cocoon? The cocoon is nothing but the silk thread. This larva starts spinning around itself. The silk thread, no? The silk thread becomes like a comfortable, small, like an oval shaped room, a white color cocoon, a small couch like room, and inside that, this larva will turn into pupa. See here, now it is something, this is like an, when we open a groundnut shell, this is like something like that. Can you relate and see?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So this outer covering is completely covered. This larva starts spinning itself. And now this larva turns into a pupa inside this cocoon. This is called, the outer covering is called as the cocoon. Now, after what happens, the pupa morphs into an adult moth. Yes, now what happened? This larva turns into a pupa. Now this pupa grows and turns into an adult moth. That is how again the same process follows. You understood? First, a female moth lays eggs, and the eggs hatches after 10 to 12 days. And that larva, that which is hatched from the egg, is the larva, feeds on the mulberry leaves, and then this larva starts spindling and spinning itself with the silk. And then what happens? The larva turns into a pupa inside the cocoon, and finally the pupa morphs into an adult moth. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, very good. Now, here I have a question for you. Did you saw one, two, three, four, five, and six stages here, isn't it? Six process happening. Now, out of this six process, which process do you think is commercially benefited to man? Like during which process we extract the silk fibers for weaving into fabrics? Any idea? Wow. Janani has raised her hand. Yes, Janani, what's your answer?
Ma'am, the fifth process, when the larva turns into a pupa inside a cocoon, ma'am, the cocoon
Excellent.
is benefited for us.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent. So this larva turns into a pupa inside the cocoon. So this cocoon is what the human needs for weaving into silk fabrics. That's excellent. Now let's check.
Well done. That's correct.
Wow, we are right. So, as you know that the life cycle of silkworm has four stages. That is first the egg stage, and next is the larva stage, and next is the pupa stage, and then comes the adult stage. Now, let me show you a small video which can tell you about the processing. Okay. So before moving into the video, I have something interesting to you. So here is the video. Before entering into the video, let me tell you this. Do you know which country invented silk first? The first country who invented the silk is the China. The China is the country who invented the silk. And also, do you know there is an interesting story behind the invention of silk? Actually, a lady, actually she's an empress. Her name is Shi Ling Shi. Shi Ling Shi. She only invented the silk. And how did she invent silk is one fine day while she was sitting under a mulberry tree and having a very hot cup of tea. During at that time when she is having a hot cup of tea sitting under a mulberry tree, suddenly a cocoon from the mulberry tree fell on her cup of tea. Actually, the cup of tea is very hot, isn't it? So this cocoon from the mulberry tree fell inside her cup of tea. And immediately what she noticed is that cocoon started unraveling the fibers which was spun by the lava. Usually the lava will spin around itself with the fibers of the silk, isn't it? So that
Yes, ma'am.
silk fiber started unraveling, like untangling, started unraveling inside her hot cup of tea. So as soon as when she saw that, she nicely got an idea that, oh wow, wow. So this is something that we can use this fiber. This thread actually looks very glossy and lustrous. So only by that incident, the silk came into existence in China. Okay. Now let me play the video.
Silk is a natural fiber which is woven into textiles. Silkworms are reared for the production of silk. In the video, you will learn more about how silk is produced from the silkworms. Farmers collect the cocoons and boil them in water. This process also loosens the silk thread around the cocoons.
Yeah, this is what that empress found, isn't it? While she is sipping a hot cup of tea, only the cocoon fell inside her cup of tea. It's very hot, and that is why the silk cocoon started unraveling. The same here, just watch it.
This process also loosens the silk thread around the cocoons.
Yeah, exactly. When we boil these cocoons, this process will actually help the silk threads get loosened. They will unravel, no? They will loosen. It will be easy for us to make into fibers.
The cocoons are then placed in a water tray in preparation for untangling. A
Yes, those fibers which got unraveled, they kept in this water tank, small water tanks, and now they are spinning into fibers. Actually, they are spinning into fibers, they are untangling it. What is untangling? Untangling is removing and making it straight, removing all the knots and spins which are threaded around, and they are making into neat, straight fibers.
single fiber from these cocoons is so fine that multiple such fibers need to be joined to form a single thread. The spinning machine untangles 4 to 8 cocoons simultaneously to create a single strand of silk. When this unraveling is over, the cocoon shell with the dead worm inside is discarded in a separate container.
Yeah. See, here you have to know something. Actually, we are using the cocoons for the production of silk, isn't it? So, what does the cocoons have inside? Do you know what does the cocoons have inside? The cocoons have the pupa inside, isn't it? The cocoons have the pupa inside. The cocoon is actually used as a shell for the pupa, right? So this cocoon is boiled in hot water for this unraveling and untangling process. During that time, this pupa inside the cocoon will be dead, isn't it? It cannot resist a hot temperature, so it will be dead. So while doing this process, while they are untangling this thread from the cocoon, this dead pupa inside the cocoon will be discarded separately. You understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
These fine silk strands are reeled to make silk, which is further combined to form thicker strands and dyed with various colors. Then it is woven into beautiful silk fabric.
Yeah. So finally, what happens? All these threads has been untangled and made into joined into many straight single fibers, and then they were all joined together and finally woven into silk cloths, silk fabrics. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Now I'm coming to a very small activity. Okay, it's a very simple and a small activity for you. Now, children, we have learned about so many types of this fibers, isn't it? Now, tell me which are all the animal fibers. Can you tell me which are all the animal fibers from all these? Rayon, polyester, cotton, silk, and wool. Yes. Lakshana has raised her hands. Lakshana, tell me which is an animal fiber, the fiber that we get from animal.
Ma'am, wool.
Wow,
Excellent.
fantastic. So, then Dakshit, can you tell me any other fiber which is obtained from animal?
Silk.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
That's fantastic. So, right. These are all the two animal fibers, no? Wool and silk is given here. Okay, fine. Let me tell you something. Um, we have just now learned that the pupa which is inside the cocoon will be dyed during the process of this boiling. When we boil only, the silk threads will get loosened, and after that we'll untangle. All these process happens, isn't it? Now let me tell you something interesting. There are people who actually don't want to kill silkworms. No When we follow some vegans who don't want to eat meat, like that, some even some Buddhist monks, they always follow the peace. So when we feel that we don't want to kill so many thousands of silkworms to make one silk sari or a one silk dhoti, now they have introduced some other new method also. You know what is that? Are you very much interested to know that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll tell you. You know, there is a type of silk called Ahimsa silk. The type of silk called Ahimsa silk. Ahimsa means non-violence, peace. Gandhiji says as Ahimsa. He always followed the policy of Ahimsa, isn't it? Non-violence, peace, not hurting anyone. That is called Ahimsa. Now, do you know? Actually, there is a type of silk available called Ahimsa silk. In this type of silk, why we call it as Ahimsa silk is it's very special. See, it's very interesting also. Usually, we will use the cocoons while the larva, I mean the pupa is inside the cocoon. We'll take the cocoon and we'll take and boil. During that process only, it gets dead, isn't it? But in this Ahimsa silk, the cocoons will be left as it is. The cocoons will be just left as it is. And automatically, when this pupa grows, automatically the pupa grows and becomes into an adult. And automatically, what happens? This pupa will come out of the cocoon, will break out of the cocoon and fly, isn't it? Automatically, this pupa, after growing, comes out of the cocoon and it flies off, no? At this time, only the empty cocoon is left, isn't it? Once after the pupa completely grows and flies out of the cocoon, only the empty cocoon is left. And now they will take this empty cocoons, and this cocoon is used in the same process of producing silk. And this silk is called as Ahimsa silk. And you got to know why this silk is called as Ahimsa silk? You know why it was named as Ahimsa silk now? You understood? Non-violence, not like
Yes, ma'am.
silkworms, because they are letting the silk free. They are letting the moth free out of the cocoon. We are not using the cocoons while the pupa is inside. Only if we are using the cocoons which we have the pupa inside, which is killing. But when we take the cocoons, when the pupa leaves the cocoons after it has grown into an adult, now the cocoons has been left free, and this cocoons is utilized for making the fabrics. And this is called as the Ahimsa silk. So let me tell you a nice example of Ahimsa silk. Have you heard about the Tussar silk? Tussar? Tussar saris, your mothers will have Tussar saris. Actually, this Tussar
Yes,
saris, this Tussar silk is also a variety of Ahimsa silk. Okay, this Tussar silk is also a variety of Ahimsa silk. All right.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now coming to um, the next video, as you have got to know the stages and the processing and interesting things about the silk. Now let me show you something very interesting, because we are going to capture this visually in 3D video. Please watch this. This is going to be really a visual treat. Why? Because it is in 3D.
Life cycle of a silk moth. Silk fabric is produced from fiber released by the silkworm. The silkworm is actually an insect known as a moth, which is similar to a small butterfly. A silkworm's life cycle can be divided into 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. The cycle begins when a female lays eggs on the leaves of a mulberry plant, the favorite food of the silkworm. Within a few days, a tiny caterpillar will hatch from one of the eggs. During this, the larva stage, the caterpillar will eat the mulberry leaves and grow bigger. Once fully grown, the caterpillar will spin a protective cocoon of silk thread around itself as it prepares for the 3rd stage of its life.
Can you see here? This is a beautiful white cocoon where that larva spins around itself, a protective covering, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Very pity. Actually, the larva thinks it is very protective, but we humans only use this cocoon for producing the silk fabrics, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Inside the cocoon, the caterpillar will change into a pupa. Gradually, the pupa will change into an adult moth. The adult silk moth will break open the cocoon and emerge from it.
Yeah, exactly. See here, this is an adult moth, and this adult moth opens this cocoon and comes out. So we are actually not waiting until this adult moth comes out. What we do, at which stage we use this cocoons? We use the cocoons when this larva, I mean, this pupa is inside the cocoon. When this pupa is inside the cocoon itself, we collect all these cocoons and use it for the process, isn't it? And once if we take this cocoons, after actually if we wait until this adult moth comes out, and then if we start the process of making silk fabrics, and that type of silk fabric is called as what? Anybody? Anybody? If suppose, I'm repeating the question, if suppose if we wait until this adult
Himsa.
comes out, yeah,
Ahimsa.
exactly. So we have to wait until this adult moth comes out, and then if we involve this empty cocoons in the process of fabric production, then it is called as Ahimsa silk. A very good example of Ahimsa silk is Tussar silk, Eri silk. These are all the example of this Ahimsa silk. Yeah. Wow.
Summary. Silkworms are actually moths. The life cycle of the silkworm includes 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. The silkworm caterpillar spins a cocoon of silk thread.
Yes. You understood the life cycle? You all understood the life cycle?
Yes, ma'am.
It is
Yes,
really a
ma'am.
visual treat to see this life cycle in a 3D mode, which is given in your no Tata Class Edge application, isn't it? It's really interesting, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So now let me ask you a few questions. Let me stop here and ask you a few questions. Let us make some ice breaking sessions. Okay. Now, yeah. So you have to raise your hands if you wanted to answer for the question. First one. Which of the following statements about the silk moth is true? Which of the following statements about the silk moth is true? You can select multiple statements. Yes, Dakshit?
Ma'am, silkworms of common silk moth feed on mulberry leaves.
Okay, C option. Any other correct statement has been given here? Any other correct statement? What do you think about the first statement? Once the silkworm caterpillar hatches out from the egg, it eats continuously and keep growing in size. Do you think it's right or wrong?
Ma'am, A is the correct option.
Right
Yeah,
answer, ma'am.
is also right answer. Now, can I submit this and check, or do you have any other right answer?
Ma'am, we can submit it now.
Okay, fine. So I'm submitting. Wow, that's excellent. Now, let me move to the next question. The rearing of silkworms to get silk is called what culture? Janani?
Ma'am, sericulture.
Sericulture. Let me submit. Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, to the next question. Which of the following two conditions should be carefully regulated to ensure silkworm eggs hatch properly? Two conditions: temperature only, or both temperature and pressure, both temperature and humidity, or humidity only. Yes, Janani?
Option C, both temperature and humidity.
Okay, let me check. Wow, that's really fantastic. The next question. Why are silk garments generally dry cleaned? So this is a really an open question. You can guess your ideas and you can tell me why are silk garments really dry cleaned? Because silk cloths tend to tear if it is washed in very hot water, because they lose color, because the fabric tends to shrink when washed in water, because detergents or soaps destroy the texture and shiny of the silk. Lakshana, you have raised your hands.
Yes, ma'am.
What is option A, B, C, or D?
Ma'am, D.
Wow. Let me check. No, it's a wrong answer. Janani, can you give your try? Janani, can you give a try?
Yes, ma'am. Option C.
Okay. Let me check. Wow, because the fabric tends to shrink when washed in water. Fine, that's absolutely right. So let me move to the next question. Now, silk made from broken cocoons where the silk moth has hatched out is called dash. Yes, Lakshana?
Ma'am, Ahimsa Silk.
Okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. See here, silk made from broken cocoons where silk moth has hatched out is called Ahimsa silk or wild silk. So here the silkworm is not killed, the cocoons are gathered and silk is processed after the silk moth has emerged from the cocoon. That is why we call it as Ahimsa silk. Alright? Okay. Now you all understood about the sericulture, the processing of silkworm, and the life cycle of silkworm. Did you all understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
very happy that you all understood. Now here I'm going to give you an interesting tip, and very interesting tip. You know, the silkworms are actually very silk fabric is very expensive fabric just because of its very shiny colors and texture. It is very costlier, isn't it? But there is one nice benefit from this silk fabrics. Actually, we will use pillow covers, isn't it? Pillow cases. We will use no. Instead of the normal pillowcases like cotton pillowcases or synthetic pillowcases, if you are using silk pillowcases, that will slow down the process of wrinkling. That will slow down the process of wrinkling. As soon as, like when we get older and older, we tend to start get wrinkles in our faces, isn't it? So when we use this pillowcases, silk pillowcases, the wrinkling, this process of wrinkling will be reduced. Does it sound interesting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So now, apart from this silk, let me tell you some other thing. Apart from this silk, which is obtained from silkworms, do you know something? We also get silk from lotus. Do you know that we also get silk from lotus? That is really interesting, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So let me show you a video how the silk has been produced from the lotus. Actually, the silk has been produced from the lotus from its stem. From its stem. Actually, it is produced from its stem. Let me show you that how the you mean the fiber from the lotus stem has been extracted and woven into cloths. Actually, this lotus is a very expensive silk fabric. So here I'm showing you. I'll present the screen now.
Lotus silk is one of the rarest fabrics in the world. Produced only in small scale across Cambodia, Myanmar, and more recently Vietnam, this natural fiber is only extracted by a few skilled craftspeople across the world. But making this silk isn't easy. Extracting enough lotus silk for one scarf can take 2 months, and the final product can cost 10 times as much as regular silk. But just
Did you hear what did he say? The final product actually takes more than it costs more than 10 times more than the regular silk. And also, just to weave one scarf, it takes 2 months using this lotus stem.
how is it made? And what makes it so expensive? Phan Thi Thuan's family have been making silk for generations, growing and harvesting the threads from silkworms themselves to create luxury garments. But making lotus silk is different. Silk usually comes from silkworms. They're kept on wide trays and need to be fed almost 24 hours a day with mulberry leaves. The caterpillars delicately spin threads to create their cocoons, and it can take hundreds of silkworms to make a kilo of silk. But while the insects require careful looking after, they do most of the hard work themselves. The key difference between the bright yellow silk and the paler lotus version is that every single strand of lotus silk must be extracted by hand.
Tơ sen thì nó khác với cái nội tơ tằm. Là tơ sen thì mình phải giúp sợi tơ nó là thân mộc. Mà sợi tơ tằm kia nó có cái phần cứng hơn cái sợi tơ sen là vì nó nhờ vào cái lực của con tằm, nó qua một cái tuyến keo của nó rút từ ruột nó ra, cái là nó có cái phần mềm mại mà có một chút co giãn. Còn tơ tằm thì nó bóng sang trọng. Tơ sen là quý phái.
Each thread of lotus silk starts with the stem of the lotus flower. The lotus is Vietnam's national flower and a plant that's grown across the country. While this fabric has been made for years in Myanmar, Phan Thi Thuan only started experimenting with this fiber in 2017.
Với chúng tôi thì tất cả đất nước Việt Nam, nhân dân Việt Nam là ai cũng rất là quý cái bông hoa sen. Tất cả nước chúng tôi là rất nhiều người trồng sen. Nhưng mà bao giờ cũng chỉ có thu hoa sen, thu hạt sen thôi. Còn cuống sen là vứt ra, nó rất là bẩn. Khi mà người ta gợi ý cho tôi làm tơ sen thì tôi thấy có lợi. Cho nhân dân, cho nông dân thì tôi nghĩ là tôi có khả năng làm được thì tôi sẽ quyết tâm tôi làm.
Once the stem is selected and picked by hand, the silk inside can be extracted. Each stem contains a minuscule amount of thin, sticky fibers, which must be rolled together and dried.
See here how much of hand process has been involved. It's really a tedious process. Selectively, they are picking the stems of the lotus, and then from these stems only, very delicately, they are extracting the threads. You mean that the fibers from the lotus stem. Using their hands and fingers, they are extracting and drawing into small threads.
The threads need to be processed within 24 hours while they're still wet, otherwise they'll break, and so harvesting has to be done each day. And the lotus plants are only available to harvest between April and October. Once you've gone through the hard work of extracting these fibers, they're incredibly delicate too.
Bước đầu là tôi chưa nghĩ đến làm tơ sen, thì tôi nghĩ là tơ sen thì nó mỏng manh mà làm thì nó rất nhiều công. Sợi tơ tằm thì nó dai hơn cho nên là có thể dệt được bằng máy, còn sợi tơ sen thì nó không có độ dai như sợi tơ tằm cho nên là.
So as this lotus thread is very thin, soft and fragile, definitely they need to involve only the handwork. But whereas compared to the silk, the regular silk which is obtained from the silkworms, they are very tough. So it can be easily involve machine works. We can involve machines to woven. For the fabrics, we can easily woven the silk, regular silk into fibers and fabrics through the machines. But this lotus fiber is very delicate, so they always use their hands to do the work.
Là phải dệt bằng tay. Cái thời gian của cái việc lấy sợi là lâu nhất. Còn khi mà đã lấy được sợi rồi, cho vào máy dệt rồi thì nó cũng nhanh hơn nhiều, bởi vì tất cả bao nhiêu công đoạn mới được lấy được sợi thì một người lao động làm một ngày được 200 đến 250 cuốn sen. Còn cái khăn rộng 36 cm, dài 1,75 m thì hết 9.200 cuốn sen. Thì một người phải làm một cái khăn đấy là phải mất 2 tháng mới được một cái khăn.
Once dried, these threads are carefully weighed down and delicately hand-spooled. Then they're put into the loom. These fibers are fragile, but once woven can be as durable as traditional silk. Fan has a team of 20 workers creating these fibers each day, allowing them to produce 10 to 20 scarves each month. But when a 25 centimeter scarf can sell for just over $200, the hard work is worth it. The final product is unlike any other fiber. It's soft like silk, breathable like linen, and slightly elastic. These luxurious drapes have made it popular with tourists searching for rare souvenirs. It's also recently been picked up by international fashion brands searching for a new luxury fiber. But its scale has been limited, as there are still few trained in the making of these silk threads. But despite the work involved, Phan Thi Thuan is hoping that this skill could one day grow to become a larger industry.
Tôi dạy rất là nhiều, nhưng mà dạy những người lớn tuổi cũng nhiều. Những người lớn tuổi họ sẽ không có cái sự sáng tạo, không có đam mê mà không có cái làm thì
become a larger industry.
So can you see this beautiful silk scarves which was hand woven? Isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. See, actually, this beautiful silkworms, silk scarves that involved lots and lots of handworks and that really worth the price also. Such a beautiful work. Apart from learning about the regular silk and the fibers that we obtain, knowing about these rarest varieties also will give you a lots of ideas. Hope you also will be a great innovator one day. Isn't it, children? Yes? This will give you a
Yes, ma'am.
chance
Ma'am.
to produce so many great solutions. So thanks for listening. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.